What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sports Dép Podcast. Not quite the final one of 2025, Simon Tsalikis, but we're getting there. We're getting close. I know that this will be the last one for the week, and you probably realize that, with this beautiful background I have behind me, that we haven't been in the studio all week. We probably won't be in the studio next week either, but we will be back in the studio in early January. But we will have episodes next week. I know that all the international teams are for the Olympics, Simon. They're announcing their roster, the preliminary rosters, on December 31st. So I'm sure we'll do something. We'll do something there to
World Juniors as well.
World Juniors as well is going on. And anyways, there's a lot to get to. But this will be the last one for this week. Before we're back next week, because I don't think anybody wants Sports Dép on Christmas Day. I think Christmas Eve is far enough. Happy Christmas Eve, by the way, Simon, before we kick this off.
Thank you.
The best to you and the family. And we're going into the Christmas break with a nice little beatdown of the Boston Bruins, my friend.
Yeah, that was quite the impressive third period by the Canadiens. And look, that's the recipe, Joey. There's going to be teams are going to want to ramp up the level of physicality like the Bruins did the first time they played this year, which I think was a 3-2 Bruins win.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Senators are probably going to try to do that as well. There are teams that believe that's a template to success against the Canadiens. And look, there's not an abundance of sandpaper or, that much physical toughness. Henderson and Jacky did their things tonight against the Kachuk boys, or that's had a little Four Nations vibe going there from the members of the Bruins.
Yeah. And Zadorov's a scary dude. Like, don't get it. He's a scary dude.
He's a big man. And when he put his hands on Slavkovsky, and I like the fact that Slav was throwing a couple of jabs, that was a good thing. Just make sure, Slav, you, Zadorov, and a referee or a linesman, please. But that's how you have to make them pay. You want them to stop doing that. I guess you can go after some of their skilled players and stuff like that, but that's not the Habs DNA, right? That's not. They don't excel.
But I think that's what I think they were going, because McAvoy has the full bubble, right? And I think Slavkovsky took a couple little jabs at McAvoy. That's what I thought I saw.
And I think that McAvoy, look, there's two things. I got to go back and watch it again, or I'll wait for the highlights and everything else and go on X and see it. But if Slav initiated that, you really don't do that to a guy who's wearing a full cage. But if McAvoy started the nonsense, which I kind of thought after that scrum, McAvoy started to do a little bit of the nonsense. Like, dude, you're wearing a cage. Like, not the time. It's I don't know. We talk about these codes and stuff like that. And I think if you're running around there with a full cage, I think you need to limit the number of times that you want to get into an altercation. But just to go back to the point there, Joey, people are going to try to be overly physical. They're going to try to ramp up the physicality. And then when you get on a 5-on-4 or specifically a 5-on-3, you have to make them pay. Specifically, the ability of skill that the Canadiens can send out there with Suzuki, Caulfield, Demidov, Hudson, Slavkovsky, Dobson. You got to make them pay, and that's what they did. And that's how you keep a team like that in check, by putting yourself on the man advantage and making them pay. So I thought that was the great part about the third period.
You see, what's funny, Simon, is that I actually had that thought twice. One time in the second period when they had the 4-minute high stick on Dobson, when Dobson was bleeding from the chin, and Canes didn't really look good, particularly in the first half of that of that power play. And I was like, man, this is one of those moments where you're 4 minutes on the power play on the road, and you didn't really generate a ton. I think they might have hit a post or something like that. But other than that, it was pretty quiet. And to me, that was my thought. It was, okay, well, they take this penalty where it's like one hand on the stick and they're swiping. And I think it was Steve's. The puck came up. The stick came up and it got Dobson right in the face. It's like, okay, you have to make them pay there. And they didn't. And it didn't come back to bite you. I'll say this. The no goal at the end of the second period, I get why they called it no goal. I did think it was a little bit soft.
The Pasternak in front there?
Pasternak in front.
I thought that was look, that to me is an NHL goal. A little bit of contact in front of the net. It went for the Canadiens' way, so I was happy about that. But I'm going to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to goals being scored, and goalies have to fight through a little bit. And I didn't think that was as much, and I think the Canadiens got away with that. Just wanted to get the temperature there on Twitter. Saw many Habs fans saying the same thing
No, I saw the opposite. I saw a lot of Bruins fans complaining. I saw a lot of Habs fans saying that Pasternak pushed him into the goal.
Yeah, that's the fact that you're going to get that from Habs fans. So even if you see a small minority of Habs fans, which maybe even 5-10%, I'll take that more with a grain of salt than the classic hardcore Habs fan that will never see that as a goal. I thought if they would have reviewed that and called that a goal, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. I thought that was a good goal.
Yeah, it was no goal on the ice, so I guess that kind of helped, and that's when that whole kerfuffle with Zadorov, Slavkovsky, and company ended up happening, and Matheson and McAvoy had a friendly chat for a while. But I understand, Simon, why they called it no goal on the ice. I get it. I understand why it ended up being no goal, because technically there is a little bit of a nudge on Pasternak's part for the player into the goalie, but to me, I think it's one of those things where. It could have gone either way, and I've seen more egregious things not called, like to have goals stand on the ice. I think there's more egregious things have happened than they've let it go.
I thought the Suzuki was a terrible challenge.
It was a brutal challenge. That's a goal. I mean, Swayman comes out to make the save, and the contact is made outside of the crease too. It's like Suzuki's clearly trying to make a move to get around the goalie. That was a terrible challenge, and they ended up obviously paying the price. But to your point, the Canadiens made them pay. And I'll be honest with you, I'm so used to, how games are officiated. After the first 5-on-3, the goal, there was the Caulfield goal, right? It was the broken stick, Dobson, and the puck finds its way to Caulfield. And finally, broken stick ended up going the Canadiens' way. But I was a little bit surprised. It was an obvious trip, but I was a little bit surprised that they actually clipped Lindholm. They actually made the call on the road to clip Lindholm to put the Canadiens back on a 5-on-3, and then Suzuki scores. I thought it could be the most egregious thing, and they wouldn't have called the penalty there. But to their credit, they saw a trip and they called it. But a lot of times, when it's 3-4 in a row against the other team and you've just been on a 5-on-3 and they just scored on a 5-on-3, you usually you see the officials kind of turn a blind eye to that.
And and I like the way the game was officiated, but I would imagine the gentleman in the stripes, the moment that puck drops and there's a scrap, you're like, oh, here we go. Like, we're in for one of these nights. And I like the way the four combatants handled it. I didn't think the game had a little bit of McAvoy, maybe a little bit, but I thought they got the scrap. Everybody got it out of their systems. The guys that wanted to go went. And after that, it became a Habs Bruins relatively physical game with a couple of face washes and stuff like that. And the game never got ugly. And look, I think it's a little bit silly to start a game with 3 seconds in and you're scrapping, but whatever. And then we had Zadorov and Jakai literally going all the way to center ice to make sure like you're in the square. So like waiting for Dana White to come out there, or Dana White, whatever his name is, to come out there.
Dana White
with the UFC card. Like, they literally went right to the middle. It was amazing. But good. If you want to scrap, you want to go at it, it means that we're going to get a little bit of a better, cleaner game.
Yeah.
Then I'm all for it. But for just going back to the officials, you're thinking to yourself, if this is how we're starting a game and it's Habs Bruins and both teams are hovering around the top of the Atlantic Division, it might get ugly tonight. And it didn't. So I thought the officiating was pretty good in this game.
Yeah, it didn't get ugly tonight, but obviously, we had the no goal that we talked about there, which is what Bruins fans are going to, see as the catalyst. Instead of going into the period, into the intermission, I should say, or the third period up 3-2, it's 2-2, and then you get into some penalty trouble, and, all of a sudden it's you find yourself quickly out of it. And Simon, I know it's the middle of December or late December, but those are two massive points because there's really not that much. The Bruins coming into tonight were just outside of a playoff spot, but they're right there with the Canadiens. I think there was a 2-point gap. So, I mean, this was a huge 4-point game already in December, and the Canadiens came out on top. And nice to see them get some offense from Noah Dobson and Lane Hudson again. And Jacob Fowler made a couple of big saves, held the Bruins to 2 goals. And I mean, he basically shut the door in the second and third period. I know, look, again, Montreal's power plays the story here, but Jacob Fowler keeps on rolling. The Canadiens got some offense. Pretty much, Sammy Blais, fourth liner. What else? What was the second goal again? I'm blanking right now. Demidov
on the breakaway,
on the second line. Yeah, and you have 2 power play goals from Suzuki and Caulfield. And Bolzert, they all scored. 2 of those came on the power play. Then you had another one from Slavkovsky and a beautiful pass from Lane Hudson. So you pretty much got contributions from top to bottom. I know it wasn't at. I mean, the Bolzuk goal was at even strength, was it not? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other 2 goals from those guys on that line ended up being on the power play. So you got, again, I talked about it yesterday, but you got that depth scoring again. You know what I mean? I know this was predominantly your top 6, but Sammy Blais sets the tone early in that game and gets a big goal. So that was a big one. So
you're gonna need that, right? And it was good because I don't want to be overly critical of a team that just won a game, but going into this game, just being on 690 today, and we were talking about it, man. We can all talk about how Sam Montembeault needs a break and all that. I get it; he needs more of a mental break, but for a physical break, stepping away from hockey. At the top of the list was probably Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. Like, I don't think their play has been great the last couple of games. Yeah. I asked Nick Suzuki. I believe it was one of the games in the post-game commentary. He said that his line was absolutely terrible or something along those lines. So he was looking for that break, and to get them going right before the break, I think that is very important. It's a massive 2 points.
Yeah,
Joey, we can start off this podcast a couple of months ago. We could have talked about what is ever going to happen with the Buffalo Sabres. Will they ever be good at hockey again? Well, I'll just do a quick score check here and see what they're doing. They've won, I think, 5 or 6 in a row.
It was 6, I think.
6 in a row. And they won again today in overtime. So I think that's 7 in a row. Yeah. So don't look now. They're like 2-3 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, who I think were hovering around
last night.
Yeah. So that's how congested it is. So these points, man, against Boston, who they got spanked against the Senators, and a bad beatdown again to the hands of the Canadiens on Tuesday night. So that's
this was close. In fairness, this was close going into the third. The penalties got away from them. Yeah, Toronto Maple Leafs even won a game. I mean, imagine that the Maple Leafs won. Mm-hmm. William Nylander broke out of a funk. So I mean, it's tight. I think you were talking about it earlier this week. It's super condensed in the Atlantic Division, and so we'll see what ends up happening. Look. We got a few minutes left, and it's Christmas Eve today, Simon, and I figured we would go into our Christmas wish lists for 2026 for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know if you want to do one each, if you want to just rattle off whatever you have, and I'll just play it off you. I mean,
we'll go with one each.
Sure.
I think I don't know who it's going to be. It doesn't matter who it is.
But we don't rehearse any of this, so we'll probably have some of the same ones.
So you need to. I'm not even going to ask for 900 save percentage, Joey. If you can get somebody or a combination of 2 dudes to get the 895, right now I would sign up for.
I want a little more than that.
I know you want a little bit more than that, but it don't need great goaltending. You need good goaltending. I think if you're quietly, privately going to ask Martin St. Louis. What he'd like. His power play is going. His penalty killing should get a little bit better with Philip Deneau. His penalty killing will get a little bit better eventually when Kirby Dach gets back in. When Kaden Guhle perhaps gets back in the lineup.
Yeah.
But if you want your penalty killing to get really good, Joe, it starts with getting a save. He's the only guy out there for 2 minutes is your goalie, right? So I'm going to say I'm not going to be greedy. Here we are on Christmas Eve. 95 save percentage is what I'm hoping for.
You're being reasonable, Tsalikis. Yes, you're being reasonable. I have a similar one. I figured you would go there, but to me, I'm going to go a little more specific. You're talking about 895. I want a little better than that. But my Christmas wish is that Jacob Fowler is the real deal at 21. I know he's going to be the real deal. And I know it's not likely. It doesn't happen in the NHL. Where guys play this early and this often. I mean, we've seen it, Marc-Andre Fleury and Dan Blackburn all those years ago or whatever. But, guys that break out this young, Carey Price, obviously, but guys that break out this young, usually there's some peaks, but there's also some valleys as well. And I know there's going to be valleys, but I just hope that Jacob Fowler, my wish is that Jacob Fowler can handle it and be an NHL goalie starting like last week. And
he's still going to need help, though, right?
He's still going to need help. It's not going to be him, but
I don't know if he stays up. It's great, but if he stays up and he's taking like the Sam Montembeault minutes that we were talking about in August, that's where you might have yourself a problem. If Sam Montembeault jumps Dobish and then it's Fowler and Montembeault, that's a great thing. But how far can this kid be pushed? We'll see.
I hope he can be pushed far. That's my wish.
Yeah. So I got, Dobson and Hudson and Matheson and Demidov and Slav and Suzuki and Cole
You already
Caulfield.
have all those guys, Simon?
They all make up a great power play.
Yes.
They all make up a great power play. The DNA for a great power play is there. Just too many guys that are Demidov, too many guys that are comfortable with the puck. Now, the flip side to that is, I think with the addition of Phil Deneau and Jake Evans and Anderson.
Yeah, we'll see what Evans.
And we'll see with Evans and Valeno. There's guys out there that have high hockey IQs. Maybe not the world's best foot speed, but Buchanan didn't have the world's best foot speed, and neither did Carbonneau. There's enough talent there. There's enough hockey IQ there. I think there's enough hockey IQ behind the bench here. As I mentioned before, it does start with a save. That penalty killing has got to get a little bit better than it doesn't have to be great, but I don't think you need it to be. I'm not going to say it's a liability, but I just think that when you look at this team, when you lost Dvorak and you lost Armia, yes, there were big losses. But Evans and Anderson and I don't think Newhook comes back this year, maybe very late in the season. Him too, quick legs, good stick.
Yeah,
he should be able to be a good. There's enough talent out there to be able to find 4 forwards, and maybe when Goulet comes back to make your penalty killing a little bit more respectable.
Sure. Yeah, that's more than fair, more than reasonable. And again, there's some nights where, we saw against the Bruins, Simon, we said the power play made a difference. There's some nights where the roles are going to be reversed. And what are we going to be sitting here saying? Well, your penalty kill is going to have to come out there and win you a game. And so I think that's a fair point. I'm going to go with another obvious one. Just good health. Again, upper body injury for Texier against the Bruins on Tuesday night. Not ideal. Obviously, he was playing really well. I wasn't in the camp that believed that he would keep that going the rest of the way, but still a very useful piece on a line that I kind of liked how it was put together with Deneau, Anderson, and Texier going into tonight. Unfortunately, Texier goes out in the middle of the game and never ended up coming back. So we'll see how serious it is. But now all of a sudden, Simon, it's 2 out of the last 3 games where you've lost a regular bottom 6 contributor. You lost Evans on the weekend, and you lost Texier tonight. I don't know how many times we've mentioned Doc, Line, and Newhook and Goulet on the podcast, but this is one of those things where it's going to have to turn around. The Canadiens are going to have to get some good health, and thankfully for Montreal, have they lost some important pieces? Yes, but they haven't lost the guys. You know what I mean? And hopefully, the guys, you know who they are, can stay healthy, because you're already down a bunch of bodies. You can't lose some of the key players on this team.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And one other, so I guess this is what I'm wishing for, right?
This is 3 for you now. This is the last one. I'm cutting you off after this. You can't wish for more wishes, Simon.
Okay, got me. I wish for peace and tranquility. I don't know if that's 2 things, George.
No, you could combine those. That's fine. I'll let it pass.
Amongst Habs Nation. I don't care.
That's
I'll tell you why. I don't care.
Tsalikis.
I don't care if you fight each other on Twitter. And honestly, if you want to meet each other at a bar and go to blows, you're adults. You can figure that out what you want to do.
Yeah.
I want to stay away because this is not the world's best hockey. This team is the youngest team in the NHL. It's kind of decimated by injuries. Or beat up at least, maybe not decimated, because you're right. It's not Nick Suzuki, it's not Lane Hudson, but it's guys that play a pretty big role.
Yeah.
So this is the youngest team in the NHL. They've been beat up by the injury bug. I'd like to go, and if it goes a little bit sideways and it goes a little bit downwards, if we need to be the smartest fan base or in all of hockey, the public outcries for changing of a coach and not sure if the coach is the guy that should be back there. My goodness gracious, are you watching Lane Hudson play in the NHL? Are you watching Ivan Demidov play in the National Hockey League? Cole Caulfield becoming a better player every single time we watch him out there from his playmaking abilities. Seems to be never lost again in his own end. Nick Suzuki, I think, is maybe just a little bit fatigued, but how he's become a great 2-way hockey player. Power play is very efficient. They'll figure out the penalty killing. Could we just, please, when things go sour, there's going to be a time and place for this podcast to be the calling for the removal of Martin St. Louis from behind that bench, because that's what happens in pro sports. That's
sure.
99 times out of 100. People wanted Belichick out of New England at some point, right? So it happens to all coaches, even great coaches. So can we just chill? Little piece of tranquility, so we'll play when things go and they lose 2-3 games in a row.
Yeah. I'm going to go for the Hail Mary. We've talked about it Monday. We talked about it Tuesday. My wish, 2026, Tsalikis, number 87 in red, white, and blue. I said yesterday on the show with Brian Wild that I don't see the Pittsburgh Penguins ever moving on from Sidney Crosby. But if he goes to them and says, hey, guys, I'd like to win one more, I'd like to get number 4, then I think that the Penguins will have no choice but to do it. And so that's my wish. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2026, but that's my wish. 87. I don't want Ryan O'Reilly. I don't want Nazem Kadri. I don't want anything else. I want to make it work with 87. And I know Brian talked about some, he thought it would be a package that included Hage, Ryan Backer, and a bunch of guys. I think if Sidney Crosby is asking for the trade, I think you're going to pay a steep price. I don't know that it'll be that steep. But that's what I want. I want 87 as a Montreal Canadien. I don't know that it'll happen in it might happen in 26, but it might happen 26, 27. But it would be cool if the Canadiens could pull that off. That would be massive. I mean, you remember how excited people got for Kovalchuk. People got excited for Corey Perry. People got excited for Eric Stahl. I mean, this is that on a different level. I mean, this is a guy who's still very much in his prime. None of those 3 guys were still in their prime. They were all still super useful.
Numbers today, Joey. I think he's like 250 points off from like number 2 all time. I can't remember the exact number, but he's got like
that would be cool to see him climb the ranks. Climb the ranks as a Canadian.
Of okay hockey, and then there's going to be a couple of seasons where he's pulling down 50, 55 points. So there's a chance here that this guy finishes second all time. There's still a lot of quality hockey left. And look, that would be the. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. Pete Rose coming to the Expos with that was an older. I'm not gonna say I don't want to say beat up, but that was an older Pete Rose, Rusty Staub. I have no idea. That would be as massive as a get that there's ever maybe been in this city at the pro levels. I know, Joe. I guess I know. Nesta won a World Cup, and I saw him back there with the flow and everything. That was pretty big. But look, it's crazy. But it's not that it's crazy. It fits.
I just have a hard time seeing it happen.
Listen, Nathan McKinnon makes the call, and there's a team somewhere else that's willing to part ways with something that is absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about the best player of his generation who still has tons of game in him.
But he's going to call his shot, right, Simon? He's going to call his shot. If he says, hey, make it work with Montreal, you'll make it work with Montreal. If he says, hey, make it work with Colorado, well, you got no choice but to make it work with Colorado. You're not going to send him to Columbus.
What get everybody excited is this is not like a team like 2 years ago when there was Corey Perry and Eric Stahl on the team. Like, you look at this team, it's a young team trending in the right direction.
I mean, that team went to the Cup final, but yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yes. But he's not jumping on that wagon, right?
Yeah.
You're hoping that I think he's jumping on a team that's trending in the right direction. Is a Stanley Cup out there? I don't know. I've seen many great teams. Team in Edmonton is pretty good at hockey, and they have 0 cups as well. So it's not that easy, but the hockey fit does fit. That's why I think sometimes you get excited about it.
All right. Just before we go, I did want to give a shout out to I want to give a shout out to this audience, Tsalikis. The numbers, our numbers. I mean, this is a fairly new project. We're not even 2 months in, and the numbers continue to amaze me. Monday and Tuesday of this week are 2 of the best, 2 of the top 3 shows that we've done numbers wise. I mean, people comment, people ridicule us, people compliment us. I mean, we love it. I love it. I'll speak for myself. But just the amount of people that have started watching this podcast in such a short amount of time is nothing short of remarkable. So I just wanted to give a thank you to the audience. Wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from myself. Tsalikis can do it on his own if he wishes to wish you anything in particular. But just want to shout out the audience a little bit, Simon, because the last few days have been the numbers have been like I've had to triple check the numbers audio wise and the numbers video wise together. I mean, have just been absolutely ridiculous for a brand new podcast.
Well, now that you're telling me there's so many hate comments, I don't know if I want to wish anybody anything.
You can. Hey, hate comments are good comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, enjoy the down. I always tell people, enjoy the downtime. It's nice, the 24th and 25th when everything's closed and you're at home. Put away the damn telephones, and stuff like that. Enjoy your family. Enjoy Christmas. Be safe, and looking forward to talking to everybody next week. nothing makes me happier than talking Habs, talking puck, and talking a little bit of football every once in a while. So thoroughly enjoying our time here on the Sports Dép Podcast. So wishing everybody the best, and we'll talk to you again next week.
And just before we go, because I know he's going to give me grief, but maybe he'll give me a little less grief because I know we're over time. But I just wanted to shout out Sam Goulet-Grimard, who does an unbelievable job doing everything video-wise. You don't see him in front of the camera, but the man is as dedicated as anybody is in this environment and in this platform, and not in this platform, in the podcast space. And we would not be here if it wasn't for Sam. So shout out to Sam. Merry Christmas, Sam. And Merry Christmas to your family. And Simon, Merry Christmas to you and the Tsalikis clan.
Yes, sir.
I hope that you get, I hope you were a good boy this year. I hope that there's everything
We'll
that you
find
want
out.
under the tree. We'll find out. Let me know if you, if next to that Chicago Bears helmet behind you, there's some coal next week when we chat early next week. But all the best to the Tsalikis clan, and all the best to all of you who watch. Simon, behave yourself, okay?
Have a good one, everyone.